finally, Ben, we now coming to the main part of today's election. So we're coming, to your input. And before I would like to introduce you very shortly. And you might be best described as a melting pot of really a lot of skills. So you have a background of craftsmanship, social science, and design, and you approach cities by social analytical approaches and combine them with tools of and techniques from architecture, design, photography, and film. So really whole melting pot of skills. You worked at the Hafen City University and also University of Neighbourhoods in Hamburg, also for a while as chair of the DACH Europe.
So I can correct you. It's the ETH department, architecture, and there I was a studio lead at the Europe chair of Reconstruction.
Okay, I see. And New Europe stands for Europe, but new. Is this correct?
In a way, on a way, how could we transform Europe in a good and sustainable way of architectural and urban design futures? Yes.
Okay. Sounds like a very decent and very good mission, actually. And since 2016, you are part of the Denkstatt sàrl team in Basel. And so maybe you can explain it better. So the core areas there are basically development concepts for rooms in cities, dialogue formats, and urban communication. So I see that communication really has a crucial part within your work. And maybe with this, I would hand over to you and your presentation. So thank you very much that you're here, and we are very curious to hear more about you and your work.
Okay, so I try out. Can you give me free for screen sharing?
Yeah. Okay, so now you're ready to go.
Okay. It's always a bit mess with the. Okay, hope you can. Do you see it?
Very fine, very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have brought you basically two, or let's see, three statements. The one is a bit of provocation to start with, and this is really a good news. So we have in the realm of narratives that are going through the media and along all these questions with climate change and the catastrophe we are facing, we reframed for us in Switzerland in the building sector a statement and said, hey, we can say we have really good news. And this news is Switzerland has been built, mainly. And this is a good news because we have a class of goods in the building sector and real estate sector that is totally different from other sectors in economy. For example, in food or in fashion, you have goods that you consume. So you can just use them while consuming them and devaluating them while you consume them. So you can't have the apple and eat it too. But for buildings, it's totally reverse. Yes, you can have the building and use it too. And this is a situation where we can say this is a very good condition to reach the climate targets of the building sector, going with the existing. And what we have done is Switzerland is very open in data. In Switzerland, there is the Eidgenössische Gebäude- und Wohnregister. That is a publicly accessible data set where every building in Switzerland is registered with its location, its year of building, its year of demolition, mainly, and some other nice things. And we have been interested in, hey, what is this building stock of Switzerland? So, and there we see we have about 3.08 million buildings in Switzerland's building stock. And we see Switzerland is a very young country. What its building stock is built, it is mainly built over the last 120 or 30 years. And the average building age in Switzerland is as young as 58 years. And this is no time for a building to lose its use value, but it might lose its trade value. And this is really becomes a problematic situation. So let's go into our questions here and look deeper into what the existing building stock is a basis for. So we see it as the one basis for ecologically, socially, and economically sustainable building culture in Switzerland. What you see here in the background is a transformation of an old industrial premise into a new space in Basel. That's the Gundeldinger Feld, one of our oldest projects. The building stock is the most important source for achieving the climate goals. What you see here is a transformation, and I will go deeper later into this project, we have a lot of industrial premises that have structures that could live another 100 years. So they are 80 years old, but you can have them living another 100 years and keeping their invested CO2 and gray energy. The building stock is, and this is really a double-edged sword, the resource for reuse and the circular economy. And this is my second critical perspective. I will take you with me into a little critique on, let's say, an understanding of circular economy that easily could lead us in a total wrong direction. Huh? And if we go ahead, only the existing building stock in Switzerland with this high land and rent prices is able to do a sustainability on a socioeconomic level, because only in the existing building stock there is the possibility for affordable spaces for the young Swiss economy, and especially urban economy and urban production, so material production. And you all know this from short ways, innovative products, and so on. Blue collar labor in the cities, we are not all sitting in front of computers and doing our jobs. There's somebody has to brew our beer and has to carpenter our furniture. And the building stock ensures affordable rents for sustainable forms of housing. So in the existing, that's the only ones that can maintain over this long time and over their structures affordable rents, because the prices for production of new houses are even in the non-profit sector the same as in the commercial sector, and for a lot of people not affordable. And the existing is much more than the visible buildings and the physical architecture. Just keep this in mind. There is a lot of entanglement and mixture and interwoven with social structures, with legal structures, with infrastructure. So it is not just about buildings and physically visible architecture. And basically, and this is at the end of my introduction, we can only achieve the climate justice intersection of social and ecological aspects if we go with the existing building stock, and we really have to culturally transform our construction and mainly the real estate industry. So let's go back into this 3.08 million buildings in the stock of Switzerland. These are huge opportunities for preservation, renovation, conservation, and climate justice. And if you split this a bit of the buildings that are younger than the average, then you have 1/3 are younger. That's the green box. 2/3 are older than the average. We have about approximately 18,000 buildings new every year. So in the year 2023, it has been 18,000 buildings, and in the year 2023, so last year, we have registered about 6,500 buildings that have been taken down. So This is approximately what we have and how we treat it. And if we go a bit more into the detail, then we see since the year 2000, we have taken down in Switzerland approximately 100,000 buildings. And we are going ahead with this. And now you see it in the end, the economic crisis, so the Zinsen, they have an effect or might have an effect to see, we are taking down less in the moment. So you see basically economic couplings here in this wave as well. But just imagine in the year 2000, we had not 2,000 buildings demolished in Switzerland. And in the year 2022, we had approximately 7,400 buildings demolished, and mainly, and that's here, the pink ones, non-residential buildings. If you spread this a bit different and look into this more in detail, we see that we have a lot of buildings that are 60 years and a bit older that are taken down every year. And we see that non-residential buildings, so this pink cumulative line over there, is even younger ages of buildings of 5, 6, 10, 20 years are taken down continuously in this. So if we could go more into detail, what is the special categories in there. And beside this, this background of statistical data in how we treat our existing world, we have qualitative evidence of what drives those forces. And this is on the one hand, this nice study from Stefan Rettich, Obsolete Stadt. You find all this material on the internet on obsoletestadt.net. Where this team is kind of developing a framework on how to analyze what typologies are falling out of their function and of their use continuously. And they're asking the question what to do with them and how to treat them. We can't take this all down and rebuild it. And on the other hand, our sister office, Baubureau in situ, with their study and project of the K118 building in the Lagerplatz Winterthur. There you have the mapping where all these building materials for circular reuse are coming from. And you see this one building on the Lagerplatz Winterthur is built from approximately 20 buildings that has been taken down. And most of them are non-residential buildings. So, and you could spread this data all over Switzerland, and then you see clusters of where and what. And at the core, we all know this, and we can use this or know this from the recent popular literature of Colin Mayer in Capitalism and Crisis and how to calculate the true costs. You can see this with Kate Rafford, donut economy model. Where are the limits, what we can't do? You can see the contradictions in the German-speaking realm with Ulrike Hermann, The End of Capitalism. Or you can go 20, 30 years back in the literature and in the critical geography with David Harvey's Limits to Capital and the analysis of the spatial fix of over-accumulation of capital. And then you see directly what are the driving forces, why this is all taken down and rebuilt in these capitalist structures. And if we now come with this kind of background waterhead we have built and ask us what can we do, then the circular economies gives us really hope. It gives us really hope. And in the practice of the circular reuse in the construction sector, we see it actually as an urgency practice of damage limitation. It is very good at this time. So this circular reuse is kind of everything is thrown away, what is still good, and we could save some of those parts that are declared unusable. But sadly, and this is really a sad understanding, circular reuse of building material is not a sustainable strategy for the future. And I will go into detail this and help you and ask a bit how to understand maybe a different approach than using spare parts of buildings. And if you go into the literature and seek for some critical perspectives on circular economy, then you find, for example, this very recent paper where the researchers take 100 critical positions on circular economy and figure out what are the core aspects of a critique in there. For example, we have an unclear state of definition what it really means. We have a total neglect of established knowledge in other fields of science, for example, physics with the zweite Hauptsatz der Thermodynamik and so on. We have still a very unclear implementability. We have unclear contributions to environmental and social sustainability. The circle is an enticing metaphor, but it is still a metaphor. And if you look in detail, there are no real cycles. So it is physically questioned if it is possible, this idea of decoupling, kind of a lossless flow of materials, since you always have to invest new energy, new resources, and resources are barely reusable in various cycles in the process. And at the moment, it is mainly a corporate-led thoughts model, and it leads to a kind of, this is critiques that they sum up their techno-depolitization of sustainable growth. And this could be a real danger if we really don't get rid of the blind spots of circular economy. And one of the misunderstanding is a misunderstanding of materiality and its socioeconomic role, as well as neglecting the capitalist reason of this climate crisis. And if we go beyond this, then you see, for example, those graphics, you all might know them, and please look at them in a way that they are oversimplifying the situation. They show an understanding of materiality that is not comparable with an understanding of materiality as part of social networks and social interaction. It treats materiality as a kind of easy to handle substance. And here in this graphic especially, you see this kind of black hole there for the erhalt of the existing, so maintaining the existing. And I will have a little view with you into one of those projects going into detail of this. So we have an old wholesaler site of that was growing since 1907, offices, warehouses, production. And what you can see here, the integrity of materiality in this case, and in all cases, is held together through use. And if you take away the use, so the wholesaler goes away, it becomes very fragile. The materiality becomes fragile and loses its binding structures. So the economic structure, the people who work there, they are leaving, the narratives become detached from it. The relationship even between ground and the buildings are getting weak. So imagine this, how can this get weak? And then you see that detached ground from its building becomes a commodity, and this commodity is then of interest in the market. And we had the luck in this case that a non-profit developer, the Logis Suisse AG in Switzerland, was faster than the market and purchased this. And they had no clue what to do with the materiality, with a building potential of 60,000 square meters of gross floor area. And they just took it and said, okay, we are a non-profit owner and we offer opportunities for sustainable planning, and the use value is at the heart of our economy, and we want to build residential houses there, but we have now inherited this old structure. Let's see what to do with this. And they made an urban design study very quickly, and they decided what to do with it. And they were taking down at least 90% of all the building structure in this study to build up, and that's their social sustainability aim: 480 apartments, 50,000 square meters of commercial space in the existing building part, and 2 architectural offices were leading this structure. And the company, the new owner, planned to transfer 6 building plots to non-profit co-development partners, so Genossenschaften from the Swiss region of Basel, to develop this together. And they started with a classical roadmap, except that they introduced a kind of Zwischennutzung, Übergangsnutzungsphase, where they said, okay, we have 6 years before we can start to build, and we have a building where we want to take parts of still as maintained for further use. And then the owner realized, shit, this materiality is a very hairy matter. It is sick of infrastructures, uses, people are still related, contracts are still valid and linked to the building. And it is not so easy to get rid of all this kind of socially interwoven structure of the existing building. And they said, okay, please guys from Denkstatt and our sister office Unterdessen, can you help us with this transformational use in the interim period? And we did, let's go in there and let's show what this place can do, what people and the context is reading it. And we in 1 year or shorter, we filled it up again with 50,000 of its 60,000 square meter with provisional new uses in there. And this is concepts of opening up the space to test out, to pioneer again in the existing. And pioneers grow with you. At the end, our biggest tenant, healthy non-THC wheat. That is a huge business in Switzerland. So he had 20,000 square meter of spaces that we never imagined to rent out again. But we had also nice goat parks in the yard where the actors are identifying those plots themselves. Nobody had an idea in the landscape architecture to come up with a goat park, nor in the interim use what to do with this little plot of garden there, and we had kind of this kind of learning processes of adapting this, and in some situations we also were setting topics and starting to trigger the things of living, of housing, of residential things in one by one models. And with this new use and with this use phase in the first 3 or 4 years, new questions arise. And the main question is, has there been enough negotiation with the existing buildings? If you look at this and you know it is 6 stories high, all the same, like you can play soccer in it. It can be 1.8 tons of weight per square meter. Then you question yourself, why should you tear it down to rebuild on the same site an atelier building for innovative housing? It is totally ridiculous not to work with this structure, but nobody is taking advocacy. So you have to employ yourself and say, okay, we take advocacy and we go in, and what lawyer strategy should we use? And this lawyer strategy is, in a contrary to design to disassembly, we call it design as assembly, because it means reassembling the socio-materiality of these buildings. So it has become weak. The people who used it left, the narratives left. So let's bring this back. So talking to the building first. Every architect and engineer can talk to the building, making its material arguments visible. CO2, statics, typology, possibilities of conversion, extension, renovation, and so on. You all can do this if you come from engineering and architecture. Then with the disciplines of sociology and anthropology and culture, gather new users and usages around and stabilize the building with potential economic and use partners, planning partners. Stabilize the building in a new form of organization. And use learning processes, because it is not easy. So we have to go step by step, because the windows of opportunity are very volatile, and you have to figure them out step by step, every day anew, and design new narratives and show that there are new futures for those buildings. You don't have to tear it down. You just can transform those buildings and form cooperative alliances. This is mainly the strategy, and what we have done is really calculating the demolition and raw building structure cost, and we see we come to a point of more than 7 million Swiss francs cost advantage. We can calculate the gray energy that was already in there. Is 1,300 tons, and translate this into something people understand, because it is 115 people living there for 10 years and have their living energy spent there. We can calculate the typology and show what it can do, and even regarding to the first planning project, is it possible to bring in those square meters and usages, and we can find and prove that people are willing and interested to live and work in such structures. And that's what we have done in this interim use or transformative use, is testing new forms of living. We had a project of hall living, privacy in community, self-building the little sleeping spaces and sharing a lot of communal space. And we use these learn processes really step by step, going forth and back, and integrated our real laboratories as one-by-one models, focusing on the use of this materiality, not as a reuse in what can we do with the concrete, no, but what can we do with the building and what have we to bring in again. And thereout, we created new narratives, and those narratives interested new actors. So we coupled up with other cooperative housing companies, brought us in, and here takes over the Mietshäuser Syndikat on the bidding concept to become one of those new owners and construction colleagues. And they started together with the architects checking that this is really a possibility.
So we would have 2 more minutes.
2 more minutes, that is great. Okay, so the building jumps up again on the plan. And what we have done is basically bringing those very heterogeneous actors together over this passage point. So we had to talk with the buildings, we had to talk with the with all the other actors, they're the owners and the potential future developers, and transforming them over. And then it becomes really a critical situation, because paper is still harder than concrete, because 6 years before, there have been plans made of the new, and they have cut through those buildings. So, and we had to convince together with the authorities that this building still has an existence, and we reached it. And I go into the GDP, you can read this all later, benchmarks in there, and you see that we reach a benchmark. We are compared with a new building in 42% less than a new building. And you see here the pink line would be reaching with this strategy. We could reach the climate goals by 2033. And with the other, for example, here Swiss SER Klimapfad strategies, you might reach it in 2050. So what we can see here is that in the existing structures, there are the big levers that we need to address, and we need different strategies and a different understanding of what materiality is. Materiality is seen in the engineering sciences as a too narrow concept, and we should learn as engineers and architects, we should learn an understanding of materiality as highly interwoven with social structures, and then rebuild our strategies and our narratives of circularity. Then what we at the moment, and that's my last slide, what we at the moment experience is that that the narratives of circularity are going in the total wrong direction. For example, the concept of urban mining that is at the moment really growing up, as you see it in Heidelberg, for example, with Heidelberg Materials, reframed from Heidelberg Cement. And I have to say, no, my city is not a mine. My city is the oeuvre of a collective urban care work. My city does not demolish, it renovates and rebuilds. It does not speculate with land, living and working space, and it protects its value and materiality through use. My city is focusing on climate justice, and it connects all the social, political, and ecological layers again together, and is not on a circularity concept that is so narrow on the capitalist reproduction logic, that if we don't criticize this, and if we don't bend it in the right direction, then we lose another 2 decades in reaching the climate goals. Thank you very much.